All right. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Career Catapult podcast. We are going to talk about something that is long overdue if you are somebody who's aspiring to a VP and above role. So perhaps you are a director or a senior director, and your next role is VP or SVP or even the C-suite. Everything I will cover today will apply to you if you are looking for a role that is VP and above, because this is what we do all day, every day inside the Career Catapult program. And I've seen exactly what it takes to get someone from, the midpoint of their career all the way to the top. And I'm going to share with you, I'm going to be very direct in this conversation because I think there's one big thing. There's one single mistake that many of you who are already high performing directors are making that is costing you that seat at the VP level. Okay. I mean, let's face it. Corporate is built like a pyramid, which means that there are more roles at the bottom than there are at the top, which means that there are less VP roles than there are director roles. Okay, so that math holds. And yet yes, you can land one of those VP level roles, but you will only do it if you fix the thing I'm about to talk about in this episode. Okay, so today's topic is titled, Why Great Directors Don't Become VPs. Why great directors don't become VPs. I'm only speaking to those of you who are already high performing, you are already delivering results, you are in the top 10 to 15% of talent within your organization. That is who I'm speaking about today, okay? Here's the thing I want you to know, okay? Why do companies hire VPs? Why would somebody hire that? And here's why we have to talk about this is that oftentimes we think about the next progression in our career as just the next thing on the ladder. Like when you were a manager, the next thing was senior manager. When you were senior manager, the next thing was director. It can be very easy to just get into that rhythm and that cadence of always landing the next thing that you don't pause long enough to think, well, what is this job exactly? Like, what is the job that I'm next in line for? Right? So let's talk about that. Why do companies hire VPs? What is a VP? Why do I need somebody in that level? Why do I need somebody in the executive ranks? Most companies don't hire a VP because they need someone else to do the function. I really want you to hear me here. They're not hiring a VP. They're not hiring an SVP. They're certainly not hiring a C-suite leader because they need someone else to do marketing, because they need someone else to do engineering, because they need someone else to do sales. They already have what I call producers in the function. There are already very competent managers. There are managers who have been managers for 20 years. Okay? There are sales managers who have been doing that job for 25 years. There are HR managers who've been there acquisition after acquisition. They can tell you the history of the whole business. If you pay attention to your company, you'll see that there are people like that, right? So they don't need to hire somebody at the VP level, pay them $500,000 either in base or total comp, to have them come in to be just another high-performing functional expert. They are not hiring another, set of hands to come in and do more of the function. The engineering manager already knows how to code. They already know how to develop software. They already know how to create apps. The HR manager already knows how to recruit talent. They know how to take a job rec from the business unit, turn it into a LinkedIn post, get candidates, conduct interviews, and say, we're going to extend an offer. They know how to do that. They don't need a VP of HR to do that for them or with them, right? The procurement manager knows how to buy. They know how to go into Oracle or SAP and push purchase, right? They know what the standard quantity ought to be, and they know how to fill up that warehouse with material. So why would you hire somebody at the VP level, right, in those functions, when the producers already know how to do their jobs, and a competent producer without much supervision? Matter of fact, lots of times the producer is much smarter in the function than the VP. How many of you have worked for leaders, VPs, SVPs, C-suite leaders who don't know a thing about that function? They know enough to be dangerous, perhaps, but they have somebody who's been there 25 years, who knows the ins and the outs of the function. So a lot of times it's not functional expertise that they're hiring a VP for. Technical competence, functional expertise got you this far. It got you to where you are. But why does a company hire a VP? Here's the real reason. They're hiring a VP because they want to maximize the organization's capacity to perform, to grow, to scale. They want to maximize the organization's capacity for that. And so simply put, what that boils down to is they want someone to build a culture of performance at a certain level. Now, when I say culture, please do not misunderstand me. I'm not talking anything about ping pong tables, foosball tables, kombucha on tap, right? Psychological safety seminars. I'm not talking about any of that. Not that those things aren't important and they don't have their place, but that is not what I mean by culture. You know, there is a culture, there's an air that people are breathing in the workplace. There's an air. There's an air that people are breathing at work. And the company's hiring VPs to make sure that air, quote unquote, is just right. It's exactly what's needed to maximize performance so we can achieve what we all came here to do. What does that look like? Well, how do we make decisions here? Do we make decisions quickly? Or do we spin in circles, pontificating, creating PowerPoint charts, and nothing ever freaking gets done? How do we resolve conflict here? Right? Do people operate in silos and protect their territories, or do they actually collaborate and move faster and better? Are we designed to go first in the market? Or are we always, waiting for someone else to go and then we'll follow them? Are people normally incentivized to take risk? Is the risk appetite one of the things that we value here? Or are we somehow creating this culture where people are really timid and conventional and unoriginal? Right? That's what I mean by culture. These are the things that will actually then lead the organization to its goals. The organization, it's people, it's like they're human beings who need to do the things that need to happen to get us to our goal. And so if we have not thought about how people are operating, that's what I mean by the air that we're breathing, i.e. the culture, that's what a VP does. The engineering VP is not there to compete with their team on writing code. The supply chain VP is not there to compete with their team on who can I deliver more savings than you. The sales VP is not there to jockey for position with their sales manager. As a VP, you have an elevated level of responsibility, i.e. accountability, to deliver the kind of culture that maximizes the company's capacity for performance and for results. Why am I talking about this? Because if you, as an aspiring VP, an aspiring SVP, an aspiring C-suite leader, do not intimately understand this in your bones, like if it's not second nature for you, you will be signaling the wrong thing in your interviews, in your resume, in your LinkedIn, in all your conversations. And you'll be wondering why the role hasn't happened yet. Because you don't understand the job. You don't yet understand the job. Right? That's why somebody pays you $500,000. When you say somebody's, $500,000 in base, $500,000 in total comp, this is why. This is why. Because we need somebody who can not only figure out the right roadmap and the right frameworks, but cascade it to 50, 500, 50,000 people and get all of those people to be in harmony, in sync, following that same framework, breathing that same air, operating the same way. Somebody has to go in and remove friction. Someone has to align incentives. Someone has to develop leaders. Someone has to create those 5-year frameworks and get the organization to be used to operating in that way. Someone has to create things that will outlive and outlast them in the role. Someone has to create the thing that if this company is to be sold, if this company is going to double its stock price, this will be the thing that got us there. Someone has to be doing those things. That's why we want someone at that level, right? You have to understand the job. This is why I think, and this episode is really an evolution. I've been talking about this for a while. I think a couple years ago, we had the podcast episode on, do you understand the role of a VP? This is an evolution. This is me doubling down on that topic because I see exactly how important it is and how it is the missing link for many of you. It's the thing that's missing. The thing that's missing is not that you haven't done enough, that you are not technically competent, that you haven't delivered savings or revenue growth for the company. You have. The thing that's missing is you don't understand how to translate that into what the company cares about at this level. And that's what's going to get you this next role. Okay. They are hiring a VP because they want somebody who can create, who can maximize the organization's capacity for performance, for achievement, for growth. And you have to signal that. Okay. Because when you don't understand it, here's what happens. You go into the interview and everything that you're saying, okay, hear me loud and clear. Everything that you're saying is signaling and proving I can do the work. And you don't even know you're doing that. And let me tell you, okay, inside our program, especially the Career Catapult program, because we run lots of different programs, but for the Career Catapult program, this is the #1 opportunity. Inside our program, when I ask somebody to tell me, tell me what you do, just, stream of consciousness, tell me what you do. Most of the time, when someone just joins us and they haven't had a chance to, again, do the work and be part of what we do, most of the time, the default, and this is likely your default, is to talk in the tasks that they do. It's to talk in, and even some beyond the task, they may just say, oh, I've delivered $50 million for the business, or I've delivered $100 million. So you're proving that you can do the work, and that got you to where you are. It's not nothing. It's important. The work is important. But if you have to, again, like I said, at the start of this, if you want to signal that you are ready for the next level, you won't get there by proving that you can do the job that you were doing as a director, right? Being a solid director, delivering more and more savings for the business, rolling up your sleeves and pulling all-nighters and getting that done. That's all great, but that's not what I'm looking for at the VP level. And this is important because here's the other piece of this. I have also seen where a company will hire a VP for one reason or the other. Someone will actually make it through this process, get into the VP level role, and then they'll have difficulty operating at that level in the way that I'm describing here. And then someone will go, well, how is that person doing in the role? And their boss will go, yeah, they're doing just fine. They're fine. And the reason they're saying they're fine is because the boss can't quite put their finger on it, but they know that this person is not quite operating at that level. They're showing up, they're delivering numbers, they're delivering savings, they're delivering revenue, but the air hasn't changed. It hasn't changed around here. This person has not elevated the room any. It's almost like they're not really there, right? So this applies whether you are going after the role or whether you have landed the role and need to excel in it. This is true. This is why I remember many years ago, worked with somebody who ran into this. She landed the role, but then 6 months later, she was let go from the role. And she was completely disillusioned, not because she's like, I worked so hard. I was, but at the end of the day, what I gathered, again, secondhand, right? What I gathered was her boss was kind of like, yeah, nothing really changed. The systems remain the same. The processes remain the same. And she just became one more person for him to manage. One more person, one more team member in the room. But nothing, the elevation, the investment they made in that person's salary, they didn't quite see the ROI for, right? This person became a highly compensated producer, a highly compensated functional team member, but they never quite rose to the level. They didn't fill those shoes, right? So this is true again, whether you are going after the role and maybe you manage to convince someone that you can do it and then you get in there. But now what happens after? Because landing the job is not the end of it. People get fired all the time, 3 months later, a month later. This happens. I want you to know that so that you can be very intentional from the very beginning, right? On how you brand yourself as you pursue the role and after you landed. This is so doable, you guys. It's so doable. It's not even funny, but you have to have the blueprint. You have to know what the brand is how to show up, how to communicate at that level. Okay. So again, remember, you are there when you're hired as a VP. Someone's hiring a VP because they want someone to elevate the room. They want someone to build the culture. They want someone to, develop the leadership. They want someone to develop the bench. They want someone to develop systems. They want someone that will develop systems that will outlive and outlast them, right? That will maximize performance exponentially, that will take what's working and explode it across 50,000 people. That's what they're looking for someone to do. Now, here's the part I really want to address, okay? Because you might be listening to me up until now, and you might say things like, you might be thinking, maybe I'm not ready for VP. Like, maybe I haven't done enough. Maybe I haven't ever had any experience actually elevating the room. Maybe all I have done is written the code, right? Maybe I've just been delivering the savings, or I've just been purchasing the products, whatever it is that you do. I've been doing the marketing campaigns, but I haven't led at that capacity, and I've been a director. So now I don't think I'm ready because I don't have the wins to justify this. And let me tell you, almost everybody who works with us feels the same way. When they first fill out that application, when they first have that conversation with me, when they first join the program, there's that moment of self-doubt. I don't know if I've done enough. I've just delivered sales. I've just delivered talent. I didn't actually align any incentives or create any new KPIs or create any billion-dollar systems or scale a company. Almost no one, unless someone's done the work already, most people don't think they've done enough of that. And I actually think this is, for one, this is where our work begins. If you're feeling that right now, this is the beginning of the work. You need to work with a coach or a person who will take you from that point to where you want to go. You don't need to go and do more. You don't need to go deliver bigger results. You don't need to go spend another 5 years as a director proving that you can now be a VP. You likely have done enough. If you hadn't, you wouldn't be listening to me up until this point. You would know. If you haven't done enough, you would know. Like deep down, you would know, boy, I've been phoning it in. I've done nothing. But many of you who I talk to, that is not the case. That is not the case. And this is how I know. Usually, when I do talk to a new client, in the first 15 minutes or so, like again, stream of consciousness, I say, tell me what you've done. They will tell me what they've done, unpolished, right? Just the download of it. And I can usually, in that time, find 5 or 6 examples where they have operated as a VP and they didn't even know it. And what they're doing is that they're comparing the messy day-to-day of their work, the messy behind the scenes of their work. They're comparing it to somebody else who has done the work of articulating and polishing and refining that. And they think, boy, I haven't done that. I haven't done that. I haven't delivered $1 billion. How do you know? How do you know you haven't delivered $1 billion? Do you know that? How do you know you haven't transformed systems? You are comparing the messy behind the scenes, the unpolished version of that, the version that's mired and fraught with all of the turmoil and the turbulence, and you are pulling rabbits out of your hat every single day, but you are undervaluing that because you haven't yet done the work. You haven't worked with anyone to help you really think it through and put it in a way that it can sound in alignment with the role that you're seeking. That's what's missing. You're not missing more results. You're not missing bigger results. This is why a person can land a $100 million win, another person land a $50 million win, and the person with the $50 million win will win that role every time over the 100 million. Because it's not, at a certain point, it's not about more results. Do you see that? So if you are thinking to yourself, I haven't done enough, I've really just been executing somebody else's strategy, I haven't delivered my own strategy, that's what you're thinking. What you may be missing is the right partner to listen to what you have done, take a look at your current brand elements, and show you where the gaps are, show you where the opportunities are, show you how to translate what you have done into language that resonates, that compels at the right level. That's what we do inside the Career Catapult. All day, every day, okay? All day, every day, beginning with your self-inventory, which is our proprietary process, okay, to excavate what you've done, and then give you the word choices, give you the KPIs, the right stories, the right scripts, the right business posture to communicate that in a way that it is believable, the right thought leadership, right? All of that is in play here so that you can signal the right level for the role that you're seeking. Until you do that, you will continue to attract more of the job you already have, because that's what you sound like. You sound like the job you already have, right? So hopefully you now know, after this brief conversation, exactly what a VP is there for, the kind of brand that you would need to signal. You now know that. And then you can be asking yourself, where am I in that? How close am I to that? Am I signaling that in conversation? Am I signaling that in my networking? Is my brand, my resume, my LinkedIn, is that all signaling that same level? Because in this market, there's nothing more important. This is one of the toughest markets. It's one of the most competitive markets. People are hiring like gangbusters, but they're being very discerning and they have lots of options. And you can be that final option. You can be that final candidate standing. I know that you can. But all you need here is this reframe. It's this rebrand, this reinvention of yourself using the same raw material that you have, nothing new, but creating the right kind of brand from it that then elevates you to the top of the list so that you have that offer in hand. If you would like to work with us to make this happen in your career, simply reply to our email or our social media with the word org leadership, the words org leadership, and we will take it from there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.